You know, for a show that suffered from a lack of hype and not a lot of buzz, Turning Point turned out to be one hell of a pay-per-view. And unfortunately, after the show ended, I once again made the mistake of logging onto a couple websites, I'm not going to say which ones, to see what the quote-unquote wrestling pundits were saying. And what the hell do I see them writing? Well, the X Division seeding match was forgettable. The tag title match was just a bunch of spots and not very good. The Knockouts match was not memorable. But instead of blowing my stack at these wrestling pundits like I did with the Victory Road review, I'm just going to do this. You know, I need to stop reading those websites, because they're just run by a bunch of cynical marks who are just looking for something or anything to complain about, because if they didn't have something to complain about, then they wouldn't have jobs. Well, now I'm going to tell you the truth. Turning Point was awesome. The X Division elimination match was tremendous and a great reminder of the kind of action that we never see in the WWE. Almost every guy in that match was allowed to shine at some point, and it got almost 20 minutes, so that ought to appease some of the people out there who think the X Division's taken a back seat lately. Plus, Eric Young cut a great promo afterward. I really enjoyed it. It looks like they're moving forward with rebuilding him as a more serious character now, which is such a welcome change after we had to suffer through all that Super Eric bullshit. Next, the Knockouts tag match. Not memorable, my ass. The only thing I didn't like about this was that they didn't have Roxy sell the injury from last Thursday when she came out, because she looked totally fine, which didn't really, and they didn't really play it up that much in the match, which didn't really make sense to me. Having said that, it didn't take away from the match, which, by the way, was damn good. This beat the hell out of their tag match on Impact last month, thanks in no small part to the fact that they actually got enough time to work, unlike their match at Bound for Glory. I love that sequence at the beginning where Taylor and Roxy kept tagging in and out like 20 times in 1 minute to work Saeed's arm. That was really cool. And Roxy was playing the babyface in peril role for a while, but she ended up getting in a lot more offense than I thought she would. And I'm a huge mark for her, so I like that a lot. The finish surprised me too. I had the heels pegged to go over here, and the hardcore thing still hasn't come into play at all. So I hope this isn't the end of this feud, because these women work really well together, and I think this storyline's got some legs. And I would much rather watch these four go a few more rounds than I would see, Awesome Kong feud with Rocket Khan, which has been rumored to be in the works lately. I hope that doesn't happen. Beer Money versus the Motor City Machine Guns. This one kicked ass. This was the best tag title match in months in TNA or WWE. And they gave this thing a lot of time, too. I mean, lots of great spots here. The Tower of Doom at the end was really innovative. And the best part was that it was competitive enough that I actually managed to suspend my disbelief to the point where I thought the Guns actually had a chance to win. Now, I'm still not sure where the writers are going with this, having Sabin and Shelley act like assholes to Mick Foley, and then come out and play total babyfaces during the match. But still, awesome match, awesome effort. I think the Guns came out of this a lot more credible than they were after the last 6 months, and that's really all we could have hoped for. Kurt Angle versus Abyss, wow. Oh my god. If you thought their Impact match was good, then you had to see this thing. These guys worked their asses off. You had Kurt Angle doing a flip dive off the stage, the two of them fighting under the stage, near falls right and left, Abyss falling off that tower thing going through the Spanish announce table. And bear in mind, this guy got lit on fire just a couple of weeks ago. This is the kind of match that elevates both men no matter who wins and loses. Potential match of the year candidate right there. Samoa Joe versus Kevin Nash. Considering this was a Kevin Nash match, this thing was way better than it had any right to be. And I was as skeptical as anyone going into this thing, but you know what? Kevin Nash went over 10 minutes with Samoa Joe, and to my utter astonishment, he didn't embarrass himself. I mean, Samoa Joe did the nigh impossible. He carried Kevin Nash to a good match. The Scott Hall thing made me nervous. I'll say that, but as it turns out, he didn't actually have permission to be out there in the first place, so they asked him to leave, thank God. Look, don't give that guy any more chances, TNA. He burned his last bridge at Turning Point last year. Do the right thing. Keep him out of there. Now, some people are probably pissed off about the finish, and I am too. But I think they managed to keep Joe looking strong enough, because the way this thing played out, they pretty much sold it like Nash's offense was just not getting the job done, and Joe kept coming back even after Nash threw everything but the kitchen sink at him, and only lost after about 50 cheap shots. So a very nice surprise here, and God help me, but I actually wouldn't mind seeing a rematch at some point, provided they do the right thing and put Joe over next time. Next, Sting versus AJ Styles. Good match. Was it as good as I was hoping for? Not quite. The problem is they had AJ playing the underdog role for too long, which meant that Sting controlled too much of the match, which was a big mistake. Because AJ can bring the offense. AJ is like 20 years younger. AJ can wrestle circles around Sting, and everyone knows it. So to have him playing the underdog in this thing was just stupid. AJ should have controlled the match, because that would have made it a much better match, like when Joe controlled the match with Sting at Bound for Glory. Having said that, it wasn't a bad match. I mean, it was competitive enough where they sold it like AJ had the match won at the end there, and I think they pulled it off. I mean, the run-in didn't feel overbooked, and it was a satisfying finish. I was pretty happy with it. Did I like Sting going over? No. But if this feud's gonna last for a while, then you got to have the heels start out looking strong, which they did at this pay-per-view. The only two matches that were kind of lackluster on this whole card were Rhino Sheik Abdul Bashir, which was still way better than I thought it would be. My expectations for that one were about zero. And the Legends title match. Christian Cage tried hard, but Booker T just kind of phoned it in. But looking at Turning Point as a whole, we had several outstanding matches, several very good matches, two matches that were just good, and nothing that flat out sucked, unlike Cyber Sunday. So, awesome effort by TNA. Fuck the pundits. This was a great pay-per-view. See you next weekend.